We can hear you very clearly. Very good. Okay, we have 15 minutes to hear your submission, Mr. Loder. So I encourage you to take us through the key points you want the committee to hear, and then we'll have some questions from committee members for you.
Outstanding, thank you. First of all, I'd like to address one thing. One of the dirtiest tricks that is played in this debate is to paint the so-called gun lobby as other than society. We're not. We are society. There's 200 parents. By the time you take into account our family, our friends, our loved ones, our workmates, people we play other sports with, we are society. We want what's best. Our concern here is that this is not a zero-sum game. If we're being honest, there's some people on the panel who think this is a binary option. They think that if the gun laws work, that's good. And if they don't, the worst-case scenario is shooters lose out. That's not necessarily a bad thing. There is a third rail, and that is that bad laws can make things worse. They can drive firearms underground and leave the nation less safe. And that is what I'm campaigning against. That's my concern. I would also draw your attention to a common trick of con men. They create a false sense of urgency. You can take it that what you will. Now, New Zealand Police, I believe, should be removed from management of the Arms Act. I think this is crucial. It sounds dramatic, but it's actually a very simple thing. The police do two things. They enforce the Police Act and manage the Arms Act. They have no business managing the Arms Act. It's not their job. They're police. They should be freed up to do their job, policing, the clues in the name. I would like to see management of the Arms Act taken from the police, given to a simple agency like NZ Land Transport. Not them, but a similar agency we'd set up with simple oversight, the same as the Children's Commissioner. Police have failed consistently. Police have lost 25,000 shooters. Let me say that again. Police have lost 25,000 shooters down the back of the couch. They're just gone. I asked them how that happened. They said they had a, quote, bespoke system, end quote. Apparently that's fine. There are currently 6,727 expired firearms licences. Police are doing nothing about it. They're, quote, awaiting action, end quote. I contacted Police Commissioner Bush about that. He's ignored my concerns. Police, of course, allowed to, we know from the last committee there that police admitted they'd armed 29 gang members and left them with gun licences. But the worst case was a guy called Edwards who came in from Australia. He had 53 previous convictions in Australia and police gave him a gun licence. 53 previous convictions because police don't data match with Australia. So vicious criminals can come over from Australia, they're clean skins here, they get gun licences. Everyone else can data match, customs can, but apparently police can't. That man went on, again 53 criminal convictions, went on to sell tens of thousands of dollars worth of guns to gangs. I asked Mike McElrath, head of firearms, has that problem been fixed? He said, yes, it has. He lied to me in writing, and I can provide you with that letter. I finally had to go through the Ombudsman who made him admit that no, they've done absolutely nothing. Years later, that's still a gaping hole, a ticking time bomb. He's currently, quote, developing policy. So we now know that police have armed 1,132 criminals from Australia. They've gone on to commit 36 gun crimes that we know of. Again, 1,132 criminals from Australia have been armed by New Zealand police who've gone on to commit 36 crimes. They're the ones we know about. There will be much more, but the only numbers we have are the ones that come from who are deported. Basically, also that man who's armed criminals, he gave police no help in recovering them. He was given only 2 years and 8 months, and that would have been consecutive with other crimes, so it probably would have been a free one. I've contacted the Police Commissioner, the Prime Minister and Stuart Nash about this, and they've failed to respond. Where are we now? I believe that the facts around this is the second great lie of the gun control debate is that there's any confusion at all. There's not. We know where the problem is, we know where the problem isn't, and you're down to agenda or reality, basically. 99% of gun crime we know is perpetrated by people who don't have a gun licence. Gun crime is low and consistently low, but the problem we do have is recidivism. Fully 9% of all gang members have 5 or more firearm convictions. Let me say that again. 9% of all gang members have 5 or more convictions. Not a gun conviction, 5 or more. The record, did you want to guess for the record? Who's got the most gun convictions in New Zealand? Any guesses? 46. One guy's got 46 separate firearm convictions. That's a career destroying the public. 46. The top 5 have 135 convictions for guns, gun crime. The top 5. One guy has been caught and convicted on 9 separate occasions of having illegal guns. 9 separate times. Cops go, oh, hi Dave, you got a gun again? Yep. One guy's been caught and convicted 9 times of threatening police with a firearm. 9 separate occasions, caught, convicted. The most telling figure, more than 50 people have been convicted of threatening police with a firearm more than once. In other words, they did it once, went, nah, is that all? I'm completely confident in threatening the police again. We know that criminals will always have access to firearms. They can smuggle them, they can make them, they can modify them, they can steal them. We've seen all of that in New Zealand. We've had machine gun murders in New Zealand with homemade guns. And all this was before 3D printing. So when we talk about gun control, please be aware criminals will always have access to firearms. Whether or not they use them is up to us. Basically, I think what this law is about is protecting people by making sure criminals and terrorists don't get hold of guns. Well, less than 8% of our gun thieves are caught. So if you steal a gun in New Zealand, only 8% of you will even be caught. Police don't treat it any more seriously than they do a toaster theft. I've asked Mike McElrath to change that policy. He shrugged and smiled. No, he won't be doing that. Police don't even attend 12% of scenes of gun theft. Don't even show up to them. If they do show up, they attend the scene days later or by phone. Obviously, this needs to change. It's absolutely appalling. If you are caught by some act of God, you're actually caught and convicted of having a stolen gun, you'll probably get, if you're unlucky, you'll get a fine for less than the value of the gun. And if you are, by some miracle of miracles, you're actually convicted to a custodial sentence, it'll be free. Less than 10% of them serve a day in jail because they're always served consecutively. All right, now to the terrorist act itself, obviously this is just absolutely horrific, but we want to stop this happening again. People have asked, would the attack have been as deadly without semi-automatic rifles? No, it would have been worse, much, much, much worse. We know from the Scumbags manifesto, he did this, he killed 50 human beings in retaliation for another psychopath killing 86 people with a truck. There's also truck killings in Berlin, Stockholm, and in Spain. 9/11, of course, set the world on fire. 3,000 people were killed that day, 6,000 injured. That was a box cutter. Charlie Hebdo, he killed, of course, the terrorists there struck with AK-47s. I can assure you they were not legal. The worst indigenous terrorist crime in America was the federal building, 168 killed, 800 injured. That was a homemade truck bomb. So again, also in Australia, we apparently have to bring ourselves in line with Australia. I don't know why. Since their harsh laws, they've had terrorist attacks with guns. They've had massive crime with guns. It's achieved nothing. Their recent Australian terror crime, of course, was Monis in 2014. He struck with illegal guns as well. Now, again, I'd address with respect to MP Collins there. I don't know if you're quoted accurately in the media, but you accused shooters of scaremongering. I'd direct you to the police union for that. The police union have claimed that 20,000 firearms are stolen every year in New Zealand. The actual number, 500, with police recovering 900 to finish the year in credit. Police do a very good job there. That's actual police work, which they do well. They've been recovering a lot of guns to end the year in credit. Again, police union claim 20,000, actual number 500. The police union lie and cannot be trusted. They also said that 1 in 5 of their members will face a gun every year. No one did the math on that. The media just blurted that out. That would come to 2,500 cops being attacked every year. The actual number of prosecutions for threatening a cop with a gun, 12. So again, police unions claiming 2,500, actual number 12. They've dropped that number to every week now. It's not every week.
I'll just let you know we're coming close-ish to our time, so if you want to allow some time for questions, which I'm sure the committee would be keen, if you could move to a conclusion, that would be helpful.
Okay, very good. Just very, very quickly, police union claim that 60,000 guns come in the country. It's actually half that. The Otago Daily Times had to apologise for them. I've won broadcasting standing complaints against them for using those figures. It's fear-mongering. It's not good. They're extremists. This is my concern. This is what I'm coming up to. I'm concerned that people have got... Basically, the government's done an end run around democracy. They've gone to a back room with people like the police union who have lied to them. That's my concern. In the last Law and Order Select Committee, the police union didn't mention criminals once. What they did mention in a 57 points in a 19-page submission, didn't mention criminals once. They did attack shooters. I asked them why. They said that Labour simply won't punish criminals. That's what they told me. Other concern is the Green Party. The Green Party literally don't know what country they're in. I've looked at their policy. They want changes to the firearm acquisition certificate. That's Canada. That's not New Zealand. It's also Canada a while ago. So our concern as shooters is these deals are being done in back rooms with people who literally don't know what country they're in. Now, shooters are responsible. In summary, we will support anything. We will compromise with anything except stupidity. We want to be safer here. And these new laws are rushed and they're ill thought. I've made a lot of details, which in the fine points of my submissions, and I'll make another one today. I'll now take any questions, and I thank you for your time and listening.
Thank you, Mr. Loder. Before we move into questions, I will just note you've made a number of accusations about other groups. I let that run. I will be providing those groups and people with an opportunity to give responses to this.
And I'm also happy to send you, everything's in writing. I don't say if it's not in writing. I'm happy to provide that to you as well. I would make those allegations likely. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Loder. So, Mr. Loder, you've provided a number of reasons expressing why you do not want this piece of legislation, this form, to proceed. I do note you've also made other arguments on your blog and in other forums, and I'll quote one directly. You have stated that these weapons are, quote, an essential tool for preserving liberty. Can you explain what you mean by that?
Did I say that, or was it someone who posted on the thing? But basically, my concern with them is that these guns aren't new. They've been around since, the 1800s. They're used by people every day in sport. There's nothing dramatic or unusual about them. Obviously, if they're misused, they have the potential maybe to harm other people when they have access to these large capacity magazines. So it's a simple loophole. All you have to do is make every semi-automatic E category. Simply, it's all there. We have the additional security, additional vetting. Again, these are sporting tools. There's nothing dramatic about them. This has been a very dishonest debate and very emotive. And when you look at it, it's the most popular gun in the country.
The post in which you made that statement, I'll cover up the image here, is a post which states that governments which have enacted gun control include the Nazis in Germany, Soviet Russia, the authorities in Rwanda before the massacre in that country. And the image which I covered up is one that you posted in that piece, which is an awful image of human remains hanging out of an oven in the Nazi death camps. You seem to be implying that gun control was a precondition for that kind of persecution. Is that your view?
Well, it's not my view, it's historical accuracy. Again, I can show you the gun law that specifically disarmed the Jewish people before the horrors of the Holocaust. So again, I don't see what that has to do with the specific law we're discussing here, but I'm happy to discuss if you want to. The simple fact is that the first thing tyrants do is take away the guns from responsible people, and also they silence free speech. But again, I don't see what that has to do with this. It seems to be a philosophical debate you're having. I'd like to address the specifics of the bill, which don't seem to make us any safer.
Well, we can. The one next question I will ask you, because I think this is actually part of the reason why you're opposing this bill, and it's one of the concerns I have, is that, you know...
Excuse me, with great respect, please don't tell me why I'm opposing it. I'm happy to tell you.
I will ask my question of you. On your site, in the course of debate about this bill, you have called groups within the firearms community who have expressed some support, names like scum and traitor. You have called the Prime Minister a tyrant.
Yep.
May I
address that? May I explain why?
About the United Nations and foreign powers being behind gun control efforts.
You've raised 3 points. May I address them, please?
And the question that I want to ask you is, do you understand why some of us, given what happened in Christchurch 2 weeks ago, may be concerned about the fact that you have a strong voice within the firearms community towards people who are armed with these military-style semi-automatic weapons, and you are promoting what are effectively conspiracy theories that are listened to often by people with white nationalist and extreme right-wing agendas? Do you have any sense as to why that might be of concern to other New Zealanders?
Well, you've made 3 allegations. The first one is that I've said the UN is involved here. Philip Alpers, Professor Philip Alpers, who never finished school, but apparently is a professor, he's funded by the United Nations. The United Nations funds Philip Alpers to campaign. The American Democratic Party, through Democrats abroad, worked with the Green Party to get our school children to leave school and campaign for their gun laws. These aren't conspiracies. This is confirmed. Now, when I called the Prime Minister a tyrant, it took 2 years for Pike River to report back. I watched the Prime Minister literally laugh when she announced that new gun laws would be rushed through. A journalist said, will people be able to make submission? She literally laughed and went, hurry. That is a tyrant. Tyrants represent the people. They don't shove their opinions down their throats. So there's that. And what was the third allegation you made?
Sorry? There wasn't
so, I don't deal in conspiracy. I deal in facts of what's actually happening here.
On your website to you. Some further questions now.
Good morning. I'm sorry, your audio is very, very bad. Could you speak up, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
The Kiwi Gun blog, your blog, on the 23rd of March at 1800 hours, you described Swazi's Davy Hughes, who said that there was no place in society for AR-15s and AK-47s, as scumbag. Is
Yes,
that,
absolutely.
and why is that?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Sorry, that was the question I didn't answer before. Basically, a lot of deals have been done here, and they're very, very dodgy. We had a Green Party candidate boldly hand in his gun. That was all over the media, this absolute scam. It was pure fake news. He was celebrated for handing in his gun. No one mentioned it was a pure publicity stunt. So this is what we're dealing with, is publicity stunts. Now, if you want a fun drinking game, go back to the Prime Minister announcing the gun laws. Every time she said rural, take a drink. Obviously, deals were done with certain groups representing farmers, and they betrayed their brother shooters, and I find that absolutely disgusting. I make no qualms about it.
Yesterday, when News Hub ran a story, and you put it on your blog, that most hunters back the government's proposals, you called them scum. So is that the most...
No, the media, absolutely, because the media have engineered a narrative debate. Hunters do not support this at all. I deal with hunters every day. Hunters do not support this at all. You have useful idiots who have been brought forward and paraded about. Hunters do not support this bill. This bill...
Do you yourself to be a reasonable proponent for the gun lobby, Mr. Loder?
Well, I'm fact-based. I research, I look at what works and what doesn't, and I behave accordingly. So absolutely, yes.
So would it be reasonable to phone the office of the then Minister of Police and advise one of the staff members that behaviour of the Minister was what was the reason that some people burnt politicians?
I was dealing with someone who was taking great delight. I remember this. I was dealing with someone who was taking great delight in obstructing me and obfuscating. And I said, I basically said, this is what drives people nuts. This is why people don't respect parliamentarians. I was basically being excluded from contact with my representative. And again, people have taken pleasure in denying 250,000 people access to their MPs, and I think that's disgusting.
Do you consider that you are a fit and proper person to hold a firearms licence, Mr. Loder?
Well, I have a genuine interest, and I'd never ever allow any firearm I had control over to pose a risk to personal property. So I imagine yes. Again, I've been shooting since I was a kid, and it's never occurred to me to pose harm to anyone or anything. So I demonstrably am. It's not a question. I am a fit and proper person.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Loder.
Thank you very much.
We thank you for your submission. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Okay, members, that brings us to the end of this part of our submissions. I will... Okay. We'll reconvene the meeting just before 11 o'clock so that we can start promptly at 11 o'clock for our next submission. Thank you, members.
You very new here. You are here.
Yeah.
Just that bloke didn't think you were in New Zealand. He didn't think you were in New Zealand. He thought you were somewhere else.